What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another movie review. I'm Chase Lee, and the movie I want to take a look at right now is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Now, this one comes from Lionsgate and is directed by Andre Uvradal. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And this one tells the story of a group of kids in 1968, and they're on Halloween night. They go out, they trick or treat, they play pranks on people. That's what teenagers do. And so they want to kind of up the ante a little bit, kind of really creep themselves out. It is Halloween night after all. Go treat yourself. And so they stumble across this haunted mansion that has been closed down for quite some time because the stories around the town is that there was a family there. They locked their daughter in a basement. So there's a lot of, stories that kind of permeate this house. And so these kids want to go in there and find out what is real and what is myth. Now, the main character, played by Zoe Margaret Coletti, she stumbles across this book, and when they leave the house, she takes the book with her, and so she starts opening it up and start reading it, and it's a bunch of stories, a bunch of scary stories that are short, like 1 or 2 pages, and then the next story is written. And so she finds that interesting because she is a writer in this movie, and she's a teenager, so she was going to take the book regardless because of curiosity. And so the longer that she has the book, she starts to realize it auto-writes itself. So it's writing stories in real time. And it's targeting the specific kids that were in that house. So the story that is written about, Billy, I believe he's the bully in the movie, and he's the first story. So the story is being written by him, and the thing or the creature that's coming after him directly correlates with that character. So he's kind of a bully, and, he is a person that is defined in the movie as scaring other people, taunting other people because he's a bully. But he also feels empty on the inside. He feels broken because that's what most bullies are. They're just broken people. And so directly correlating him to a scarecrow that's coming after him is pretty great. And so all these stories that are written by about all the teenagers go after them and their personalities. And so I found that to be pretty cool, actually. And so that's what the whole movie is. And it's just them trying to escape the horrors of this book while trying to find out the mystery behind the book, who wrote the book, and all while just trying to survive. And so I saw the trailer to this movie. I thought it looked pretty solid as a horror film. I'm a horror junkie, whether it is PG-13 or rated R. I think there is a horror movie for everybody, and that's what's so great about it. It's very versatile. You can do anything you want in this genre: horror, comedy, sci-fi horror, drama horror. You can do it all. And so I was excited for it just on that front because I love horror films, and the trailer looked pretty solid. But I was born in 1990. You knew I was going to say this. I'm sure most people are going to see this movie because of this. When I was a kid, there were book fairs at school. And I remember going to the book fairs and just wanting to buy as much, useless garbage as possible and buy a couple books on top of that. It was always a fun time. But some of the books I would always expect at the book fair were every single year were like Guinness Book of World Records, Captain Underpants, and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Now, I actually never read the book. And I know a lot of people have, and a lot of people have really enjoyed it. But the reason why it's so striking to me is because of the illustrations that were on the book cover and within the book, kind of setting up the story that you're about to read. And they were creepy, super eerie, and just very impactful on that front because they were hand-drawn, they looked messy, but they looked really disturbing at the same time. And so when you're a kid, even if you just look at the pictures like I did, it's enough to creep you out. And I'm sure when kids picked up that book when they were 8, 9, or 10 years old, it's the perfect segue to get you interested in horror and make you want to read more horror novels and just really creep you out. Like, that's what you want as a kid. You want to be scared. You want to be thrilled. You don't want to be treated like a dum-dum, and you want to be treated like you're reading something edgy and something inappropriate that you shouldn't read in your parents' house. And so that was kind of the excitement about those books. And so while I did not read them personally, I know a lot of people did. And so I got to tell you, I like the movie. It's actually quite fun. Some very creepy imagery for sure. And I think that there's worse ways you could spend your hour and 40 minutes that this movie is. And so director Overdahl, excuse me. I think what he does best is learn from his boss that's on the movie, which is Guillermo del Toro. He's one of the producers, and applies it, enough to where it looks like a Del Toro movie, but also providing enough creativity behind it that he can call it his own. And it's like the perfect blend of the two people. The main story with like the kids and the problems that they're going through and just their banter back and forth, that was so much fun to watch. It's stuff that you would see in recently, like Stranger Things and stuff. You watch that show or you watch this movie because you want to see the kids interact with each other. You want to see the chemistry there. And I think it is there. Yes, some of the acting is a little so-so. Some of the lines of dialogue are kind of bad. But I think for the most part, they were able to capture each child to have a distinct voice, to have a distinct personality, to have all these problems that they're going through, especially with the main character, very well written in that regard. A lot of stuff that kind of weighs on them as teenagers, and I thought that was really well done. I wanted to see them interact with each other, and I know working with child actors is not easy, and I think they were able to kind of have this sense of camaraderie between them as they're trying to figure out this mystery. And I did like most of them for the most part. There was one kid that was a little iffy. He was the curly-headed kid. If I had to pick like the weakest actor out of the bunch, it was definitely him. But that part of the movie was really well done. Now to get to the actual scares, very well done scenes. The cinematography, the lighting, the editing, precision on the way it was cut, the dropping out of the music and just relying on like subtle sound effects to creep people out. They were well done sequences that, yes, there was a couple of times where Overdahl relied on loud jump scares, but I think for the most part, the sequences themselves were really well handled, and it's all about creating atmosphere. Every single one of them was different. And that's what I appreciated. None of them were lit the same. None of them were shot the same or edited the same. So every time when a kid was being targeted, I was like, "Ooh, I'm excited because it's a fresh scare, and it's not going to repeat the same things that we just saw in the scene before." And so I really appreciate it on that front. And so that showed me that this film was created with passion and just love for the horror genre. And that's what Del Toro is all about. He produced this film. He's the boss of the film. He wanted to hire people that would show that same amount of love and passion for this genre as he does. And I think he found that in Overdahl as the director. And so, I think the best way to compare this movie is like a campfire story. You go camping with your friends. You sit around this campfire with the darkness surrounding everything else and just really making you feel fearful and paranoid as you're listening to the stories. And that's what this was like. It also kind of reminds me a lot of Trick or Treat, this movie directed by Michael Dougherty, that is really well done. It's a main story that has a bunch of micro stories in between everything, but everything kind of connects to one another in some way, shape, or form. That's what this movie is. And it's just, the only difference is that it's PG-13, it's not R. But on the flip side, the PG-13 rating is actually pretty good. They do push the envelope a little bit. They do make the scares a little bit more disgusting and kind of disturbing, and I really appreciate that, because what I just said, at the top, is that the book is there to scare 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. that's what this movie is. It's a great segue for 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. And I mean that in the biggest compliment possible. If there's a kid out there that watches this movie and feels emboldened to venture off into the horror genre, that's wonderful. And I think this film provides enough entertainment, enough scares, and enough quality there for kids to make them feel like they're watching something that they shouldn't be watching, but thrills them, excites them, and wants them to watch other horror films and not make them feel dumb while watching, because I know some PG-13 horror films do that. But this film, it's a fun ride. I love the mystery behind it. It's just a good little movie to watch. Like I said, you could definitely spend worse ways throughout the day than watching this movie. I think this is a solid film that I can see every kid that likes horror films watching this every year for Halloween. And that is also another compliment I will give this movie. So, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I will give a solid B. Once again, a good little movie that they set themselves up for a sequel, and I would not oppose one. So, please give me more. Yeah, it's for a book that's basically just about short little stories, I was actually kind of impressed that they were able to weave it into a feature-length film like that and make it work with the stories correlating to each kid and their fears and their paranoia as teenagers. It's just kudos. So what did you guys think of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? And have you even heard of it? What did you think of the books as a kid? Let me know down below. And that will do it for this review, guys. I am Chase Lee. And tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.